Kishimoto has been hiding another user of prescience ability in plain sight, who's playing a 4D chess game with every character in the story, and you won't believe how much sense it makes. There is actually someone pulling the strings behind everything that is happening in the story, which means the suspicion of Momoshiki was actually correct. Amado, the mischievous scientist with vast Otsutsuki knowledge, has been using the power of 10 directions, and it took us over 121 chapters to finally get this. Back in Boruto Part 1, Eida revealed that Amado has modified his eyes with scientific ninja tools, but if you think about it, we never saw him using any ocular power. But at the same time, chapter 23 clarified that Koji's prescience is actually an eye technique, and connecting this detail with Amado's ocular advancements, I guess we finally know what's going on. Amado has schemed everything with the knowledge of the unknown. He was able to see futures at will, and that may be through the Shinjutsu of prescience that he unlocked by injecting the cells of Shibai into his body. The theory is about to make a crazy amount of sense, so I hope you double check if you are subscribed or not for more amazing stuff, and let's start from the beginning. There are some obvious gaps in the tale of the scientist that nobody has ever questioned, starting with his team up with Jigen, which gave us a strong clue to understand how he knows so much about the Otsutsuki. It must be Ishiki who bestowed all his knowledge upon him to firstly gain his trust and secondly for his own agenda. Jigen or Ishiki had a vision for himself that he had been working on for thousands of years. He wanted a group of strong individuals who would make his revival process much easier, and that's how he came up with the idea of forming Kara. At surface, it may feel like he wanted strong cyborgs to protect him from various threats, but if you think about it, there is actually an angle which turns this possibility into nothing but a lie. Or let's just say it was just the gaps in the narrative, cause if you think about it, Jigen was more safer without these cyborgs who were made by Amado, cause they were programmed to put the will of their creator above his. Not just that, they could easily be shut down by the creator, meaning they were completely useless in Jigen's mission if Amado ever switched up that he did. So here is what I think could be the case. It may have been the idea of Amado to come up with Kara, not because they were of any use to Jigen. Instead, he wanted to gain his trust in order to make him feel like his plan is being followed well. Most of the cyborgs were made through the knowledge of Amado, like Koji, whose creation required the body of Jiraiya that he must have somehow obtained, or Delta, who was based on his own daughter. It was a deliberate plan to gain the trust of Jigen, just to isolate him at the end. But what if I told you he didn't just come up with this as a result of his genius mind? Instead, it was the knowledge of the future which made him craft his master plan. In every collaboration between two individuals, there must be an exchange of some sort of knowledge, which makes both the parties trust each other. In case of Amado and Jigen, it was the Otsutsuki who approached the scientist with an offer to revive his daughter. But Amado was at a place where he had no reason to trust him, so why didn't he simply refuse the offer? Was it the desperation of reviving his daughter, or something even greater than that? Well, on top of promising to resurrect Akibi, Jigen shared something much more valuable to Amado, and it was the ages-long Otsutsuki knowledge. If you take a look at all his tech, it has clearly been derived from the Otsutsuki technology of the Ten Tails dimension. There is no way he magically came up with such innovations. He must have examined the Otsutsuki miracles from this dimension, just to replicate them with his expertise in cloning, and that's exactly what he may have done, which only means one thing. Jigen must have brought him to this dimension while explaining the entire Otsutsuki lore to him, from Shibai Otsutsuki to his betrayal from Kaguya. He trusted the genius of Amado more than anything, and the results only increased his trust more. But little did he know, just like how Kaguya backstabbed him, Amado was also cooking a betrayal plan that he failed to see, and this lack of suspicion led to Jigen making the worst mistake, a move that made Amado a singularity of fate, someone who could now revive his daughter without needing the hands that fed him with the divine knowledge. It was the moment when he entrusted the secret remains of Shibai Otsutsuki to the scientist. Amado, without wasting any time, experimented with these divine cells and was able to unlock different Shinjutsu in some of his cyborgs. But what hasn't been revealed in the story yet is the fact that he indeed injected his own body with these cells, which could have possibly granted him the mighty power of prescience. I never thought about this possibility before, but after seeing how Koji's eyes started gleaming while using this ability in chapter 23, it all started to make sense. Amado, after unlocking this power, must have used it many times behind the scenes to find some perfect loopholes in the timeline. He may have modified his eyes for the same reason, so that nobody catches him when he's using this power. So back to his master plan, it all starts with Eida and Daemon, who were so powerful that Jigen had ordered to dispose them of, but surprisingly they were alive, as if they had already been assigned a pre-planned role by someone. Now here's a huge punch in the theory. Out of all the characters in the story, why did only Eida fall for Kawaki? Well, what appears to be a coincidental attraction to many could be a secret programming that Amado had installed in her way early in the story. I would get back to this point in a while, but first take a look at this. Here's the reaction of Amado when Ishiki's spirit came to Code to establish him as the successor. Jigen never showed some real interest in Code when he was alive, and looking at how Ishiki thought of Code as the one who could avenge his death makes it all a bit confusing. Even Matsuri told him that he always gets used like a clown by others, so what if that's exactly what happened when Ishiki's spirit was projected to him? What I mean is that Amado in this sequence where he can be seen talking to himself could be actually talking to Code through the hologram of Ishiki. That's right, it was Amado who sold a dream to Code by appearing as Ishiki and telling him that he is now a chosen successor, when in reality he was never meant to go that far. The biggest hint to back this up comes from the meetup of Eida and Code, when she revealed that she has already seen the conversation between him and Ishiki's spirit. But what's confusing is that when Momoshiki, who is indeed a real Otsutsuki, appeared as a spirit to have a talk with Boruto, Eida wasn't able to catch that with her Senringan, and this only means one thing. If it was actually the spirit of Ishiki, then the Senringan shouldn't have been able to see this spectacle. And when we connect the Amado angle into this, it all makes perfect sense. It wasn't actually Ishiki but an imposter, commanded by Amado, who ordered Code to avenge his death and become a god. So now the question remains, why did he do that? Well, all of the possible futures that he may have seen, the only ones which had his chances to succeed, must have needed an external intervention. And that's exactly what he did by provoking Code by selling him a dream from someone that he admired the most. And once Code was fully manipulated, he went in search of comrades where he found Eida and Daemon, and while at first it felt like the evil trio has been formed, Amado suddenly got kidnapped and was forced to remove his limiters, again a part of his plan, which then came with an unexpected twist of the cyborgs betraying Code at the last moment. Now this betrayal did not come from scratch. It was a result of Aida's love for Kawaki overweighting her loyalty to Code. And as I said earlier, this love that she shared for Kawaki must have been installed into her as a part of the master plan, which was to activate the omnipotence. You heard it right. It was the love for Kawaki which made Eida come up with a solution to his complex problem. The omnipotence manifested a switcheroo which transferred the lives of Boruto and Kawaki, and not to mention this spectacle was witnessed live by Amado as well. So before moving forward to the why, when and how, did you notice how Amado somehow always survived from getting killed in the story? First it was from the wrath of Ishiki, then it was the suspicion of Kawaki, and finally the rage of Code. He somehow got rid of all these situations, which was only possible because he was a singularity of fate, someone who did changes to the timeline to push the odds into his favor. Now moving on to the bigger picture, the role of Code did not end here. He used his claw marks to divide the Ten Tails, which first created the claw grimes and then led to the birth of the Shinju. And here comes the big question. Were the Shinju also a part of Amado's planning based on the visions that he had foreseen with prescience? Well, I must say the answer is absolutely a yes, and here is why. The primary goal of Amado behind cooking so much was to revive his daughter, and in order to do so, he had integrated his DNA into the artificial karma of Kawaki. Now even though he had successfully made him awaken the karma, which was again a major factor of his master plan, there was no way for him to make Kawaki use it to revive his daughter, and that is why he needed someone strong enough whose defeat would become the goal of Kawaki's life, and that's when Jura entered the picture. He was a tough competition to Kawaki, who showed him where he stands, and the only way to eliminate him was to get more powerful. And this is when Boruto played his part and made Kawaki aware about the limiters that Amado had installed in him. After realizing how he was being hammered down this entire time, Kawaki went to Amado to get his limiters unlocked, and since the scientist already knew he wasn't the son of the Hokage, it was the perfect chance for him to put forward a golden demand, a wish that made him plan everything from the beginning till now. It was to make Kawaki use the karma on Akibi's clone, just so it could resurrect her, this time for real. And looking at how Kawaki's limiters have been removed, there's a good amount of chance that Amado was successful at his mission, and now he has got his lost daughter back. But that's not all. On closer inspection, you can see that the pattern of Akibi's body armor matches the body marks of the hypothetical Lord Suzuki god, and while it may appear to be a coincidence at first, I really don't think it's one. Amado could have used the cells of Shibai to immortalize Akibi so that her chances of death would minimize after resurrection. It also means that she would now unlock some broken Shinjutsu and could either become an ally or enemy to the main duo. But what if I told you it's neither of that? In reality, it may be something even worse. Something that could take us to the destruction scene from the future just a couple of arcs later. So while the observations that I just mentioned have established Amado as a mastermind, here is how he might be involved in the annihilation of the future as well. There's an undeniable parallel going on in the story right now, starting with chapter 23 of Two Blue Vortex, which corresponds to the events of the same chapter of part 1. Both the chapters mark the entry of Kawaki in the story, with part 1 marking his debut and the second part featuring his most awaited comeback. Now let's keep chapter 24 aside for a while and talk about 25 first. This chapter from part 1 showed us Boruto and Kawaki's karma resonating for the very first time, and looking at how all the circumstances have been met for this situation to again erupt in the story, there's a good amount of chance for this pattern to continue, which means chapter 25 could either have a resonance moment or the comeback of Momoshiki himself. Now when it comes to chapter 24, part 1 of the manga showed us a glimpse of Kawaki's backstory, and going by this already established analogy, we might get another backstory of Kawaki, and I'm not talking about how he made Amado unlock his limiters. Instead, it could be something related to another battle puzzle piece, which is Akibi. Now here is a mind-blowing detail. In chapter 75, it was revealed that Akibi was 24 years old at the time of death, and the next chapter number is also 24, which might reveal her revival to us in the form of a flashback. So while it's almost clear that there will something be related to Akibi in the next chapter, what if it's actually the infamous theory that I have been mentioning time to time again? Akibi could get revealed as the mother of Kawaki, with Amado being the secret grandfather who had been planning everything from the very beginning. It would add another notorious layer of genius in the character of the scientist. The reason he made Kawaki the vessel of Ishiki could be solely because of his DNA compatibility with Akibi. What I think is that her revival wouldn't have been possible if the karma enhanced with her DNA was not used by a blood relative, and that may be the master move of Amado. He deliberately made Kawaki go through all the trouble and traumas in order to prepare him for the karma seal. The resemblance shared by all three of them also hints at the same, and looking at how the blood relative plot is a common trope in shonen mangas, I genuinely believe that this is where the plot is headed from this point. Kokasu, the father of Kawaki, who in this case would be the husband of Akibi, also hints at this theory coming true for one solid reason. In the anime, it was revealed that he was once a great shinobi, and while it was believed to be a false rumor by the speaker, I think the reality is the complete opposite. Kokasu might actually be a great shinobi of his time, but there must be some tragedy which changed him completely, which in this case was the death of his wife. Now here is how I believe Amado would indirectly have a hand behind the destruction of Konoha and the extermination of shinobi age from the future. In chapter 75, it was revealed that Akibi died of some incurable disease, but at the same time, her passing turned Kokasu from a brave shinobi to a broken drunkard. So could it be that it was the unexpected loss of his wife which made him go through this change? Well, the fact that he left the way of shinobi after this incident could potentially mean that Akibi's death had something to do with ninjas, but we know for a fact that Amado said she died of a disease, so how does it even make sense? Well, in that case, the death of Akibi could be associated with the shinobi status of Kokasu. What if some enemies of Kawaki's father planned the murder of his wife by attacking her with a poison-coated weapon? It makes sense when you think about how she may have lost her life to a disease which infected her out of nowhere. What may have appeared to be a failed assassination attempt could have turned the life of Akibi into a living suffering by infecting her with an incurable disease. This sudden loss affected both her husband and father in pretty different ways, with Kokasu abandoning the way of shinobi and becoming a drunkard, and Amado pledging to revive her no matter how far he would have to go. And once this knowledge would be revealed to Kawaki, likely through Eida, who would check it all for him through her Senringan, he could decide to side with Amado and exterminate the system of shinobis once for all. This makes Amado the secret mastermind who single-handedly turned around the whole story of Boruto with the hidden power of prescience. If you are interested in more such theories, make sure to check out these videos right now. I will see you next time.